Oakland County politics falls into a kind of chaos to which it is most unaccustomed. The new Oakland County Executive, Dave Coulter, is here. And we'll tackle everything from a wild week for the president to a barely noticed but glaring problem for Mayor Duggan. Today is Sunday, August 25th, 2019, and this is Flashpoint.
Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. It is hard to believe, but we have arrived at the last Sunday of August, and once again, a Michigan summer has just flown by. Nat King Cole sang about those lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer. We've been pretty short of lazy, just a little bit of hazy. But goodness, we have been full up on crazy, and this past week was another prime example. For starters, reporters spent all week swinging their heads back and forth as if they were watching a tennis match, and yet they were only watching one player. The president was really all over the place on gun control measures, especially whether he was committed or not to stricter background checks. There was also a renewed suggestion that it was time to end birthright citizenship, a concept enshrined in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And maybe most head-turning, bizarre talk of trying to buy Greenland, which ended up completely scuttling a planned state visit by the president to Denmark. We'll talk about that wild week this morning. We've also been overdue to talk about a Free Press report that found the Duggan administration has not been honest about the lengths to which it tried to support the Make Your Date nonprofit, including a lot of deleted emails. We'll get to that as well. But up first, a little more than a week after L. Brooks Patterson was laid to rest, Oakland County has a new county executive for the first time in more than 2 decades. But to many, the race to fill the seat was very poorly managed in a number of different ways. The new county executive is Dave Coulter, the former mayor of Ferndale, and he's up first this morning on Flashpoint. Well, for the first time in 26 years, Oakland County has a new county executive, though there is a lawsuit from the Oakland County Republicans that seeks to blow it all up. We'll see where that goes. In fact, a hearing next week. But in the meantime, that new executive is David Coulter, former county commissioner, more recently the mayor of Ferndale, and my first guest this morning on Flashpoint. Dave, good to have you here. Thanks very much for coming.
It's so good to be here, and you're making my mom's morning because she loves your show.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter. Very nice to have you with us this morning. I want to let's start with how we kind of got here, which to many people has been an unseemly mess, especially when we saw that originally the vote on how this was going to proceed was scheduled for right during Brooks's funeral. Yeah. This has all been kind of, to a lot of people, very unseemly.
Yeah, you know, and politics can get that way. It's not called sausage making for no reason. And I wasn't part of any of that. I wasn't involved in any of that. So I sat on the sidelines and watched it like everybody else. And yeah, it was almost like a drama, a soap opera. Every day it was another twist and turn. But politics can get like that, and that's kind of an extreme example of it. But, you know, the law said a political body has to make a political decision. And so...
well, I don't think it was, I'm not sure it was, well, actually, we'll get to that part now as to whether the law was broken, because Dave Woodward, the head of the commission, resigned in hopes, I think, of being the county executive. When it became obvious he wasn't going to be, kind of rescinded his resignation, and he's the reason that you're the county executive, because he was that extra vote. That's the source of this lawsuit. Was there anything illegal about that you can see?
Yeah, no, but I'm not a lawyer, but let me tell you what I did. I talked to the lawyers, I talked to the county's lawyers, I looked at the legal opinions of the other folks. I said, I don't want to take this appointment if there's something wrong with that. They all agree that that was on sound footing, that you're, as a public official, you're not officially resigned until the public body accepts your resignation. That's pretty settled law.
So far, you've spoken pretty glowing terms about what you saw out of Brooks Patterson as a leader for the county, and yet, by virtue of the fact that you're a Democrat, it's a big change after 26 years. What do you expect is going to change for Oakland County residents?
You know, I am a Democrat, and when I served there for 8 years, Brooks and I argued about a lot of different things. I have been in favor of some kind of comprehensive mass transit system since I first got elected, and here we are 17 years later, and we're still no further along than we were. A little further along, but not much. I didn't favor the expansion of I-75. I would have rather invested those funds into transit and those sort of things. I'm also really passionate about making sure that Oakland County is perceived and really is a welcoming and inclusive community. I think it's important in attracting talent and people to the community that people feel safe there. We were a welcoming community in Ferndale. We passed an LGBT rights ordinance in Ferndale, and I think those things are important. That wasn't a priority for Brooks. So you're going to see me do things like that.
Do you think we can get, I mean, we're now a little over, not even quite a year and a half away from an election. Can we see transit on the ballot in 2020 again? Another attempt, even though the last one, which was not that long ago, failed.
Well, but it was that long ago. It was 2016, and here we are. We're going to be 4 years later. And so I do worry that if we don't do it in 2020, it could be another 4 years, and then another 8 years. And so there are folks that would like to see it happen in 2020, and I think that's a realistic time frame, but it's the product that's more important than the timing. So we have to have the right plan. And so I need to get myself up to speed on, and help me understand, why did that last one go down in 2016? What was it about it that the public just didn't buy? Have we addressed those issues? I don't want to put something before people just on an artificial time frame, but at the same time, I'm anxious to get moving on this.
The Patterson Manifesto has long been whatever was best for Oakland County. If it was neutral for Oakland County and good for the other areas around, fine. If he felt it was bad for Oakland County, and he clearly felt that mass transit, that the shouldering of the financial burden was going to land unfairly on his very wealthy county.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with his manifesto. That totally makes sense. The question is mass transit good for Oakland County and the region?
I guess that is the question.
And I believe that it is. I think not only for the quality of life that it affords our residents, but for the economic development. Our businesses are screaming for economic development, especially the larger employees whose, their employees come from Macomb and Wayne and Detroit and all over, and they need to get them to work. Yeah. So I think, and to attract the young talent. Today's younger millennials, they don't necessarily want a car. They want to take transit, they want to be able to walk to work and those sort of things. And so I think to attract talent and jobs and the quality of life that it offers seniors and others, I do think it's helpful. Now, the price tag is going to always be the thing, and we have to, obviously, the devil's in the details, and I don't know the details yet. I will get myself up to speed.
You haven't been able to get the whole thing figured out in a week, huh?
I haven't solved it all in a week. Maybe the mayor has, or Mark Hackle, but I haven't. But we'll get there, I think.
I spoke to Brooks just a few months before his passing, and he was very candid with me about worrying about Democrats taking over for him, in a sense that Oakland County has been squeaky clean as far as the way that its ethics have been run for many, many years. Never a scandal in government. Fully funded pension funds. 3-year budgeting that was always done on time, and really no financial mayhem. And I think he always thought that Democrats, left to their own devices, tend to spend too loosely and freely. And that he was, that's the portion that he told me he was worried about that. So how would you address that?
I get it. Brooks was old school, and that, in my mind, is an old school stereotype of Democrats. If you look at what we did in Ferndale, first of all, I took Brooks's idea of multi-year budgeting and I brought it to Ferndale. So the first thing I did as mayor is we adopted a multi-year budget. It's now a 3-year balanced budget, just like the county.
Like Oakland County.
Because I learned it in Oakland County, and it works. So, you can teach me new tricks. And we kept a real close eye on the finances. We actually lowered taxes twice during my 9 years as mayor. Now, Ferndale's this progressive, liberal city with all this stuff. Yeah, but I also lowered taxes twice, and we spent a lot of time with economic development attracting businesses. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be a Democrat who believes in the social policies and the fairness and equity issues that we care about, but also know that, and it's not just pro-business. I look at it as pro-jobs, right? When you bring, companies to Ferndale and Oakland County, it creates good-paying jobs for our residents. It's great that the businesses gain from that, but it's about the taxes that you generate. The more taxes you raise, the lower the taxes can be for residents. So, I think Democrats can do both, chew gum and walk at the same time, and he doesn't need to worry.
The last thing I wanted to get to, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring this up with you or not, but the issue of your sexual orientation. You were one of the first openly gay mayors that the state has seen. And I'd like us to think that we're getting to that point where nobody even mentions that about someone, but I'm not sure we're there yet, given that it's not a part of the Elliott Larson situation in Michigan yet. And I guess I'll ask you, does it matter that you're a gay man now becoming Oakland County executive?
You know, I don't bring it up much because it doesn't matter to how you clean the streets and pick up the trash or attract businesses. It doesn't matter in that sense. But I'm proud of it, and I think there might be a young person out there who's struggling with their own sexuality who might say, wow, if he's in that position, then maybe someday I can be in it. So I'm not ashamed of it. It's not something I wouldn't want to talk about because, you know, it's part of who I am.
You didn't have a lot of those role models to follow, I assume, when you were 15.
I'll be honest with you. I loved politics since I was in high school, but it really never occurred to me that I'd get the opportunity to do this because I didn't have role models like that. So it's important for that reason, but not for doing the job.
Well, as I kind of jokingly say, congratulations. Because now here you are in the belly of the beast. But congratulations on the appointment, and best of luck to you. And thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mom, thanks for letting us borrow it today as well. We'll continue with Flashpoint right after this.